Most people think the life of the professional chef is a glamorous one. Let me tell you, life inside those kitchen doors is very different than what you might think, Oprah.
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 Anthony Bourdain moments.
You guys are both into Roadhouse?
Such a great film.
That's where my long and checkered career began, right there.
Getting a job washing dishes to pay the rent, I was quickly impressed by the line cooks.
For this list, we'll be looking at the times that made the late TV host and chef so great. He left this world too soon, but the memories that he left for us will last a lifetime. Do you have any other moments of Anthony Bourdain that you wish to share? Sound off in the comments. Number 10. Dining with Bill Murray. Anthony Bourdain, parts unknown.
Meet one of the owners of the Charleston River Dogs, Charleston resident Bill Murray.
The Charleston, South Carolina episode of Anthony Bourdain, Parts Unknown not only gave us a look at a legendary southern city, but also a particular national treasure from the north.
It's very different up there and down here. It's a big transition. Easy for you or not?
It's easy. The driving was the real transition because I drive like a New York person.
When visiting to sample the area's famous seafood, Bourdain and chef Sean Brock took the opportunity to dine with the great Bill Murray. Though eccentrically funny on screen, the Murricane, as fellow screen icon Dan Aykroyd calls him, is also notoriously prickly off-screen. What we see here, however, is Bourdain somehow getting a disarmed Murray to open up a little about his private life, pranks, moving from New York, and declaring his love of Southern cuisine.
And the standard of food here is so high that when I go around any place, I just go, eh.
Number 9. Going all out in Thailand. Anthony Bourdain, parts unknown.
Things were different now. Asia had ruined me for my old life.
Parts Unknown did more than open viewers' eyes to the cuisines and cultures of places that we may not have the opportunity to visit, but also managed to surprise its host on more than one occasion. Though his knowledge of food was extensive, to say the least, Bourdain still managed to be shocked. One huge example of this was during his trip to Thailand. Although the food was delicious, even he had to admit his pleasant surprise to find that blood soup and a dish made from brains tasted good.
Actually, that's completely delicious.
It's utterly delicious.
This wasn't his only experience into which he jumped boldly, as the same episode had him hallucinating from a particularly alcoholic dish and enjoying that ancient Asian tradition known as karaoke.
That could be me someday, I'm thinking. Things go just a little wrong, I go off the rails. This would be all too attractive.
Number 8. Cooking in El Bulli's kitchen. Anthony Bourdain, No Reservations.
Okay, are you ready to cook?
You see the look on my face, Jose? This is called pure terror, my friend.
I'm gonna tweet about it.
Prior to Parts Unknown, Anthony Bourdain would travel around the world to showcase the finest cuisines he could find in No Reservations. During a visit to the Costa Brava, the no-holds-barred chef visited the then so-called best restaurant in the world, El Bulli. This revered Catalan eatery, under the leadership of its charismatic head chef, Ferran Adrià, was frequently booked up for the season a year in advance and held 3 Michelin stars.
Has a cook ever just broken down in the middle of the shift and started crying, put their hands in the air and said, okay, I can't?
We haven't seen that yet.
Okay, good to know.
But when Adrià fan Anthony Bourdain found out it was closing its doors permanently in 2011, he got to visit once more and joined the kitchen staff for an experience of a lifetime.
It's so beautiful. I could just watch that all day.
Number 7. The Borneo Chest Tattoo. Anthony Bourdain, parts unknown. For the inked among us, getting a tattoo can be a mild to sore experience. There's no shame in admitting that there is a little pain involved, depending on where the tattoo will be located.
Yeah. You're gonna have fun, man.
Wow. All right.
Chest tattoos, particularly those on the solar plexus, are renowned for their trickiness, even with modern technology. However, getting a tattoo now is a much easier experience compared to the hammering methods of old, which is still practiced in Borneo.
All right, good. Very happy, guys. Thank you.
Quite why Anthony Bourdain decided to be on the receiving end of getting a tattoo in the most painful place by the most painful of methods is questionable, although it made for great TV. By his own admission, it, quote, hurt a lot.
Another tattoo, another thing you did. Another place you've been.
Number 6, the Atlanta Club, the layover.
There it is on the left. So it's around the back and downstairs.
The premise of the layover was simple. Find out how much can be done between the time that a plane lands at and takes off from a layover city. This meant that each episode could cover a relatively limited amount of time and action. But an evening arrival in a city known for its bustling nightlife meant even a small amount of layover time could amount to a lot of activity. This was the case as Anthony Bourdain arrived in Atlanta with fellow icon Alton Brown. They set about on an adventure of a lifetime, ending up at the famous club, the Claremont Lounge.
One last stop in Atlanta. Where else would I be? Ponce Highland neighborhood and the Claremont Lounge. This place should be a national landmark.
Bourdain's remark that it, quote, should be a national landmark is topped only by their meeting with Atlanta's unofficial mayor, Blondie.
Whether people admit it or not, everybody knows who you are. Yeah, everybody loves you. Everybody's been here. You are a hard-working woman. You built this institution.
I built this city.
You built this city.
Number 5, Thanksgiving dinner. Though there's no footage that exists for this meal, it's not hard to assume that the event, straightforwardly described by Bourdain, was even more special than he let on. After his later controversial partner Asia Argento took a public stand against Harvey Weinstein, Anthony Bourdain cooked and hosted a Thanksgiving meal for her and fellow accusers Rose McGowan and Annabella Sciorra. He did so in honor of their standing up and leading the charge of the Me Too movement that ultimately helped bring the producer down.
We are no nation. We are no country. We belong to no flag. We are a planet of women. And you will hear us roar.
Showing gratitude in the best way, he'd later write publicly that he stood with them, quote, unhesitatingly and unwaveringly. Number 4, exploring Israeli and Palestinian cultures. Anthony Bourdain, Parts Unknown. The opening to this episode of Anthony Bourdain, Parts Unknown takes no time in pointing out that this will be one to remember. Getting his shots in early, Bourdain acknowledged that he was likely to receive a lot of backlash for making the episode, but invited the scorn and went for it anyway.
So here goes nothing.
Bourdain, an outsider on all fronts, associated with every community he could in that contentious area of the Middle East in order to showcase the history, culture, and obviously the cuisine.
Fun? Oh man, it's good. I just had this incredibly delicious meal, completely oblivious to the fact that it's entirely vegetarian.
He visited both Jerusalem and Gaza and made no apologies, nor any focus on politics.
Apart from journalists, aid workers, emergency responders, very few people are allowed to cross into Gaza.
Number 3, fleeing Beirut. Anthony Bourdain, No Reservations. It's safe to say that this wasn't the usual episode of No Reservations. After wrapping filming for the night in Beirut, the growing tensions in the region escalated into violence.
There we are on the balcony of my room, nervously emptying out the minibar, watching jet fuel cook off at the airport.
The airport that the show's crew had arrived at, as well as intending to depart from, was bombed, stranding the cast and crew. Evacuated to a safer hotel for 9 days, they had a bird's eye view of the fighting.
We are here. It's down there.
The host and crew were in constant uncertainty about bombing, losing communication lines, and considering just how they were going to escape.
But I have to say that it's the uncertainty that starts to really, really gnaw at you.
All of the crew did unscathed, and Bourdain went back 4 years later to pick up where he'd left off.
Well, it's 2010. I'm back. And this time I hope to get it right.
Number 2, back to the kitchen, a cook's tour.
What drives you to do this every single day? I don't know, you love it.
Returning to where you spent your formative years can sometimes be a harrowing and deeply personal experience. Oftentimes, the nostalgia will bring out the reality of how far you've come in life.
The way I've lived my life, I am on bonus round now. I ran out of points a long time ago. I'd probably be scooping mashed potatoes in Attica right now if it wasn't for my first summer in Provincetown.
Such was the case with Anthony Bourdain during a first season episode of A Cook's Tour. Although he was early into his TV hosting days, his history in the kitchens was reputable. However, his troubled history of addiction was relatively lesser known.
Now, what would I have become had I not become a cook? I'm sure tragedy would have ensued. In fact, if there's any part of me that's good and decent and organized and exhibits the qualities that generally parents approve of, strangely enough, I learned all of those things in the restaurant business.
Returning to Provincetown allowed Bourdain to share stories of his past, revisit the kitchen where he started out in the 70s, as well as introduce us to the mentor that inspired him so much.
In all honesty, the people that succeeded the most in any of my organizations, I think you would characterize as real smart guys.
I was looking for an answer like, your soups were really good, Tony.
No, your soups are not so good, if memory serves.
Before we unveil our #1 pick, here are some honorable mentions. Japanese robots blowing Bourdain's mind. Anthony Bourdain, Parts Unknown.
This was the greatest show I've ever seen in my life. It had it all. It was the greatest show in the history of entertainment.
Wise Words on Waffle House. Anthony Bourdain, Parts Unknown.
It is indeed marvelous. An irony-free zone where everything is beautiful and nothing hurts. Where everybody, regardless of race, creed, color, or degree of inebriation, is welcomed.
Candid conversation with the queen of interviews, The Oprah Winfrey Show.
I love frightening people away from brunch, largely because I just don't like to cook it. It's also an irresistible impulse for a cost-conscious chef because brunch allows us to charge $14.95 for 2 eggs.
Iggy Pop and Anthony, 2 legends sharing a tale or two. Anthony Bourdain, Parts Unknown.
I wouldn't have thought back then in my dorm room that all those years later I'd be eating healthy with Iggy Pop. Barbecue shrimp for the godfather of punk. I get wild and crazy with some roast pork.
Getting shredded with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Anthony Bourdain, Parts Unknown.
Every morning, 7 a.m., I'm here. And for the next hour or 2 hours or sometimes more, I am just getting crushed. Humility. Jiu-Jitsu gives you that in spades.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You'll have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. #1. Lunch with Barack Obama. Anthony Bourdain, Parts Unknown.
Good to see you.
What have we here? Just 2 classy American tourists sharing a beer and some food in Hanoi.
How often do you get to sneak out for a beer?
Very rarely. First of all, I don't get to sneak out, period.
It's awesome how coolly and casually the dynamic duo laughed over beer and delicious food and talked candidly, even with a camera crew present. Yes, this was actually Anthony Bourdain enjoying lunch with the then President of the United States in an unprecedented interview.
You don't make peace with your friends. You make peace with your enemies.
Bourdain happened to be filming an episode of Parts Unknown when POTUS was visiting, so the two made plans, met up, and chatted about everything non-White House.
Progress is not a straight line. You know, there are going to be moments at any given part of the world where things are terrible. But having said all that, I think things are going to work out.
Their mutual admiration was remarked on by both afterwards, with Obama eventually tweeting his sincere condolences when Bourdain later tragically passed away. Do you agree with our picks? Check out this other recent clip from WatchMojo, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.